Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and I just want to say quickly, I do have a fan on. I hope that's not being picked up and not affecting my audio. Hopefully not, it should be fine. But this week I am joined by another new guest who's never done this before. He's never been on the show, Mr. Ben Langford.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
This has been, to give you a peek behind the curtain, this has been delayed just a little bit from when the initial plan was, because we live in completely different time zones. So that's fun to figure this out. And for this week's episode, we are going to be looking at Chicken Run, to tie into the release of Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget. So we're probably going to talk about Chicken Run, but also Aardman as a studio. Yeah, Chicken Run. I rewatched it for the purposes of this, and we're going to have incredibly different opinions, I think, on this film. Because you wanted to do this episode, and you seemed keen to, and I'm not. Well,
It was partially ironic, but yeah, I do quite enjoy Chicken Run, but I think we'll get to that. Yeah.
So yeah, Chicken Run. I think. See, the thing is, I thought I had seen the film before, and I think I still have, but I don't know if I'd seen all of it before, because I remember I was rewatching it, and I was like, okay, this is like, I remember this stuff, and then it gets to a certain point, and I'm like, okay, I don't remember this stuff, so maybe I haven't seen this all before.
See,
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I never watched it when I was younger. I never watched any Aardman stuff when I was younger. Sorry, and then a little over COVID, I got into watching the Wallace and Gromit shorts, watching Creature Comforts. Then I watched this for the first time, and I greatly enjoyed it when I watched it back then. I don't know if that's just because I was looking for something cute and charming during COVID. I rewatched it when we were originally going to record on Saturday, and I definitely liked it a lot less. I don't know if it's one of those things where it just loses its charm on rewatch. But yeah, I think the animation's obviously great. I think the humor is very well written. The story is kind of just the most generic, kids movie story ever, which was, I don't know how I forgot that, but
I mean, yeah,
it was very uninteresting.
Chickens.
Yeah. Which on the surface is quite clever, but it does have a lot of the typical, because this is also DreamWorks, right? It's DreamWorks and Aardman.
Yes, this is one of the collaboration between the two.
It does feel okay, yeah, because it does feel very much engrossed with the DreamWorks tropes and some of their more gross qualities of a DreamWorks movie.
Yeah, so this was Aardman's first feature film. They'd done Wallace and Gromit shorts, among they done other things. This wasn't the thing they did, but this I'm just looking at the list of Aardman productions on their Wikipedia page, and yeah, Chicken Run is the first feature, but they've been doing TV shows back to the early 70s, and they're still making TV now. They've done short films back to the later 1970s. They've done Wallace and Gromit shorts before then, but yeah, Chicken Run was their first foray into doing a feature film. They'd also done music videos as well and commercials. This just is off the Wikipedia page. Yeah, but they'd done, so that they had done a lot of stuff before they had made the leap to making feature films. And I'm not too familiar with a whole lot of their output. So the ones I've seen Chicken Run, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Arthur Christmas, and Shaun the Sheep movie. Those are the only ones I've seen. I'm familiar with all the other ones. I've seen, ads, or I've seen bits and pieces of them, or I'm just aware of them, of what they are.
Have you seen the shorts, the Wallace and Gromit?
I've seen
a close shave and
or maybe two of them. I've seen Wrong Trousers. I've seen Close Shave.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those are the two big ones. Yeah.
Of what I have seen, I don't love Aardman. I don't have any real nostalgia to a lot of their stuff. Like, I watched the Shaun the Sheep TV show when I was a kid, but I hadn't seen any of the Wallace and Gromit stuff. Certainly, not that I can remember until fairly recently. You know, I'd seen like clips of Flushed Away. I'd seen some of Chicken Run, but like again, I don't think as a kid I'd just seen. I don't know how I don't remember like, the context, but I have no nostalgia connected to a lot of to anything they've made really, and I don't want to
Sure.
say that's why people love it because
I think it's definitely a factor.
but I think yeah, there is an element to it of like if it's a thing. This is Aardman feels like one of those things that like if you grow up with it, you'll love it a lot more as an adult than if some. Yeah, it's sort of like Goonies or something, you know, or like the film Hook.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Like The
you grow up
Sandlot.
if you grow yeah exactly you grow up watching it and you love it and you have a nostalgia for it when you're older. But if you show it to someone who has never seen it and they're like 20 something, they might not like it as much because they're like, oh, that's good, but it's not great, you know. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. And you know, I have a lot of respect for stop motion just for animation in general, but for stop motion animation especially because I've done stop motion animation stuff before. It's a it's a pain. I don't like doing
Yeah.
animation. It's not something I can ever see myself wanting to do because I'm like, it is so time consuming and
Yeah.
so
Lots of patience.
yeah. And I'm just like, I did an animation course at uni last year, and
Oh, nice.
and it was it was simple. We just had to draw like a circle bouncing, like a ball bouncing, and that took so much longer than it theoretically
Yeah.
should have because it's just a massive pain. So it's you know, I
Yeah.
respect animation, but I do not have the patience to make animation. Like
Totally.
it's
Yeah. The same.
way too time consuming.
What's interesting, I'm looking at the, sorry, not to interrupt. I'm looking at the production here, and it says the like principal photography only took about a year and a half, which I mean that's a long time, but for stop motion, I know like Isle of Dogs took like 4 years to animate, so it is relatively quickly for that.
Yeah, I mean that's Wes Anderson making it, who's like gonna make
Yeah,
it. That's not a long time. Like they're making a new Wallace and Gromit film, and
yep,
they've been
yeah,
working on that for however many years. Like they announced it back like 2 years ago now, and then maybe yeah, and they're working on it still for yeah next year presumably.
yeah.
Maybe I don't know.
Also worth noting that Chicken Run is the highest grossing stop motion film, which is just a weird one to be the number
Mm,
one. I think it's kind of niche overall stop motion. Like I feel like
mm,
people are into art really like it, but like I don't know. When I was a kid, I was very like turned off by it. Like it always kind of creeped me out. Like stuff like
mm.
Chicken Run, and I feel like that's a big thing with kids. Is like it's kind of just creepy. But like when like now I love it. Like I love like Nightmare Before Christmas and like I mean this is a very adult one, but like Anomalisa or like Fantastic Mr. Fox. But when I was
Mm,
a kid, all those looked terrifying. So
mm.
maybe it's more a sentiment or I don't know because like it says it came out the same year as Shrek, I think, right? And that was obviously much more successful.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's I respect stop motion animation a lot, but it's I was watching the film and I was thinking, man, you've spent all this time and clearly put all this love and care into a film that I don't think is really worth that much time
Yeah.
put into it because I'm not a big fan of this film. Just to lay my
Mhm.
cards out, I don't
Yeah.
I don't hate it, but it is just like this is not it's not my thing, and I think
Sure.
it tries very hard to be funny, and I just don't. I don't find it
Mhm.
funny like at all, and that's I think a real
Like hit or
like that's
miss
a
thing.
real problem because
Yeah, I thought
it's clearly trying to be funny, but it just does not.
sure. There's a lot of like wit that I found very like charming in it, but it was very much like a kind of a cute like kind of the jokes coming through one ear out the other. Like there were a lot of
Hmm.
lines I'm like, oh, like kind of like breathe through my nose kind of laughing. I was consistently
Yeah,
kind of entertained. but I couldn't tell you a line or a joke from it after 2 days after watching it.
The only line of it I can remember is the one about she's like, "Oh, I don't want to be put in a pie. I don't like gravy." And I'm like, "Okay, well, it's not."
Yeah,
Like it's clearly written as a joke, but it's like it's not funny
yeah,
enough. I can tell like,
yeah,
oh, this is meant to be a joke, but it just is not
yeah.
funny enough.
This did get nominated for Golden Globe Best Motion Picture Comedy or Musical, so that's an
Oh
interesting
goodness. What else was nominated? I want
that
to.
year. Oh, I'd have to
Yeah,
check what was nominated that year.
yeah.
I can go.
This is when
Yeah, I definitely
yeah.
do. Yeah,
Mm,
I agree that it's like the humor isn't amazing. I guess I just found it more charming than I did funny. Like
mm,
I was consistently had like a smile watching it because it's just like cute and charming, and that's kind of the only which I mean isn't great praise or something. Versus something like Shrek the next year, which I feel is much more well written. This feels very like bare bones with the humor and story, which that is
mm,
sad. Like how you're saying with the stop motion, like it's the animation so like so much work went into it, and knowing that it's all in service of a script that's not very doesn't seem to be much care into it is kind of sad. Because I feel like most stop motion movies, you feel like there's an extra care for the script because it's if you're going to spend that much time animating a story,
yeah,
you want to make sure it's a good one.
mhm,
And this
yeah.
does not seem to have the same care in the script and
Um,
the
yeah,
voice acting too, which we can talk about was one of my bigger issues with it.
yeah. So I've looked up. Yes, Chicken Run nominated Best Motion Picture Musical Comedy at the Globes, nominated alongside Almost Famous, Best in Show, Chocolate, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Yeah, it's interesting seeing animation being recognized for best film type awards because we never see that
Yeah,
now. Animation just
sure.
is
Yeah,
not a thing in any category besides like a best animated film and occasionally like score or something.
yeah. Well, even last year for stop motion, there was the Guillermo's Pinocchio movie, which
Yeah, should have
like is
gotten
much
more.
more, yeah, and much more care put into the story there than something like Chicken Run.
Yeah, so, yeah. You mentioned the voice acting. So yeah, Mel Gibson, the
Known
lead.
great guy,
Yeah, it's
no controversies.
no, he doesn't. He's a big. He's not does not have problems with anyone.
Yeah, and I feel like this
Um,
came out after some of his controversies, right? Or is this before?
he was accused of homophobia after a December 1991 interview, so nearly 10 years
Oh,
before. And then all his major controversies. So then the next one was 2006.
okay. Post
Um,
Chicken Run, the two eras
so
of
it
his
was
career.
post Chicken Run. Yeah, it was. So this was before he was a controversial figure. He'd done
Yeah,
Braveheart. Oscar winning Braveheart. He'd done. Yeah, this is before Passion of the Christ, but this was when he was.
he was at the top of his game here.
Yeah, this was he was still very well respected in the industry. I feel like.
Yeah, this is the same
I'm.
year as What Women Want and The Patriot, which are both pretty big movies of his.
Yeah, I'm not. I've seen Mel Gibson in like a couple things, but I'm not really blown
Not
away
my
by
guy.
anything he does. I don't think
Yeah.
he's. I don't really think he works in this part. Um,
No, not at all. Yeah, that's what I want to get to.
I don't know. There's meant to be a bit of a charm to the character that he's playing, and I don't think he really brings that. And I don't know if it's because I know
No.
what he's like, and that's part of the bit. But it just didn't feel like he was.
Even without like knowing that he's, Mel Gibson, I
Yeah.
just feel like there's like a nature to his voice that doesn't have a lot of charm to it. So it doesn't really fit for this like lead character who's supposed to be kind of like a coolish but also sympathetic character. Like it just feels like I never really like bought into his kinder side that they tried bringing out of him. I don't know,
Mhm.
just And that's also to do with just the writing being very surface level. But
Yeah, and
yeah, they just
the whole sort of reconciliation moment where he like goes back to save them. I'm like, that doesn't feel particularly
earned.
earned, and I think
No,
that's a
not at all.
problem. It just, and I think part of the problem is like, the film's like less than 90 minutes long. They've really got to just,
Mhm.
but because of that, and I understand like stop motion animation, it can't be like ridiculously long because it takes
Yeah,
fucking years to make a 90-minute film. But
sure.
it does feel like there is constraint with that runtime because they have to like, because they get to a certain point and they're like, oh, we've got to do this big moment where he comes back and saves the day or whatever, and it's like it doesn't feel
Yeah.
earned. And I think that's a
Mhm.
problem with not all stop motion animation, mind, but it feels like that with this film, that the emotional reconciliation does not feel justified or earned with what we get. Like, what even is there that like makes him? He sees like a poster or something. Like, what is? I've already like
I don't even
forgotten.
remember, honestly. Yeah, because he goes away, and then I'm honestly can oh yeah, it's the billboard of the pies, right, or something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh fucking hell, Jesus Christ, that's just so lazy. Um, and then there's also the
It's
whole
just like
sort
a
of
shitter Lion King.
that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's this whole sort of liar reveal story, which I'm not.
Yeah, overdone.
It's it's overdone and it's often never justified within the context of the story. It's never like it's only there to be like to create conflict, even though like
Mhm.
it doesn't need to be there to create conflict. The conflict could just be we need to do this thing and we don't, we need to
Yeah.
figure out how to do this thing and we've got no one who is able to do it, so we've got to work together to do this thing, or there needs to be actual stakes for someone lying about something. And some just
Mhm.
doesn't have that. He's just, because he spends, when we meet him trying to leave, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and
And
it's a
it
very
doesn't,
common trope in DreamWorks too.
yeah, yeah, and
Like
it
just
doesn't
shit kids
endear
movies.
me, yeah,
No.
and it doesn't endear me to his character.
No, yeah, he just comes off like a dick.
And it's quite fitting because it's
Also,
Mel Gibson, but
sure,
this was
but I don't think that's what they're
pre
going
that.
for.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think it's just sort of right. It's just sort of writing that doesn't work. Yeah, there's lots of other people in this. I've got,
Mhm.
let me get up the cast list. So I don't remember any of the characters' names. I only remember Mel Gibson because it's Mel Gibson and he's the main guy. Um,
Yeah, Rocky or whatever.
yeah,
Is
there's
it Rocky or Rocco?
Rocky, but there's Julia Sawalha as Ginger, who I believe is the main chicken. Yeah, I sort of as an overall point, I think the voice acting is all decent. It's nothing incredibly standout or amazing.
Yeah.
It is it's fairly functional.
Mhm.
It's not like, oh, this is amazing voice acting or anything. It's just sort of, oh, here is, you know just voice acting that gets the job done, but it's not
Yeah.
anything I'm like, this is, in film and TV and video games, even, there are great vocal performances where
Mhm.
you really feel like these are tangible, like real people, and you don't really get
Sure.
that. That's just sort of my overall thoughts. That's just my feelings on the film as a whole. It is
Sure.
there. It's
Yeah.
not. I don't hate the film. I don't think it's even particularly bad. It's just this is never a film that I'm like, I don't have to watch it again. It's fine, and I can just sort of move on and be like, I've ticked that off, and that's it. I don't need to watch it
Mhm.
again now. Yeah, no, and I think it's interesting how beloved this film is. Like, it's not like a beloved. It's not considered. It's not like a film that's incredibly well loved and it's not like a big film or anything,
Mhm.
but it's sort of broken sort of through, because it's a British film, but it's sort of broken through a bit, I feel like,
Yeah.
to get a sequel. 23 years later. Yeah, and it's just weird that that a lot of people really like this film. We're talking before. It's got 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is like
Mhm.
insane. It's like that's ridiculously high for
Yeah. It has an
and
88
like
on Metacritic.
yeah, 97, and I just want to see how many reviews. It's got 173 reviews, but it's got an audience score of 65%. But
Interesting.
that's also with 250,000 reviews compared to 173. So
Sure.
I guess it makes sense. But like
Still
Chicken Run's
surprisingly
got a
low.
yeah, it's got a higher Rotten Tomatoes score than Shrek, for
Hmm.
example. Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a ridiculously high Rotten Tomatoes score, and Rotten Tomatoes isn't like the be all and end all of
Sure.
but it is like that is insane. It's higher than Wall-E, than Ratatouille. It's higher than Lion King, Finding Nemo,
Just
Monsters Inc.
every
Like
animated movie.
it's just everything Pixar's made, bar like the first two Toy Stories. It's weird because this has never been a film that I've never I don't think I've ever met anyone in person. Like no one I've ever talked to in person has ever talked about this film.
Or anyone who does doesn't like adore it. Like you never meet anyone who calls it like top tier animated movies.
Yeah, no,
Like it
exactly.
always, it's like a
But
grandma's DVD shelf kind of movie.
but I was I was on Reddit, and there's and if you just search up Chicken Run on Reddit, there's
Mhm.
someone made a post called "Chicken Run is such a fantastic film," and then they just talk about it and then they compare it to The Simpsons, which I find deeply offensive because it's The Simpsons is infinitely better. Like
Sure.
it's The Simpsons was like actually was peak Simpsons is like actually funny, and it's
So they were
weird.
comparing the humor of The Simpsons?
Yes, they say it reminds me of peak Simpsons, funny, poignant, and with tons of great throwaway background jokes. I can't think of
Interesting.
any jokes in the film besides the one about not liking gravy.
Yeah, me neither. The 88 on Metacritic is higher than Anatomy of a Fall. So Chicken Run more
Fucking
acclaimed
hell.
than Anatomy of a Fall on Metacritic.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned before it's The Great Escape, but with chickens, which I've never seen The
Mhm.
Great Escape. Actually, I should.
I actually haven't either.
I've heard it's very good though. But yeah,
Yeah.
it, it's just So I'm looking at the voice cast, and there's the owner, there's the woman who owns the chickens and is going to kill
Mhm.
them, and it's the film's surprisingly dark
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
what
it
it
is.
is. It's a
Mhm.
film about cooking, about cooking chickens.
The
It's
main
a
characters.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's and I do appreciate when an animated film, like or a kid that's sort of aimed at a more family audience, is sort of
Mhm.
okay with being a bit darker and being like, yeah, we're gonna deal with some dark things. The
Mhm.
whole plot of this film is literally, yeah, we're gonna cook all these chickens and eat them. I'm like, okay, I like that. It's just it doesn't feel like it expands upon that. It's got some
Yeah.
good ideas, but yeah, there's no expansion upon what the ideas are. And I find that
Yeah.
very disappointing that there's potential for the film to be something, you know, for something good, and it just
Yeah. It is kind
doesn't.
of a one joke movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like, haha, they're chickens. That's crazy.
and
And then
they've
just
got
every
yeah,
variation of that joke.
and then they've got teeth, like
Yeah.
but they're like, and yeah, it's the film really just there's not that much I really have in terms of the film. I think I'm trying to think of what, like, yeah, honestly, probably my favorite part is the animation. Like, it's a
Definitely.
incredible looking film. I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever seen stop motion animation and not thought, oh, this is just the best thing. And I'm not saying, I don't know. Do I? So I'm trying to think if it's like my favorite style of animation, because I do really love good 2D animation and 3D animation, obviously. Especially with what
Yeah.
3D animation can be, like we've seen with Spider
Mhm.
Verse and Puss in Boots and Ninja Turtles. Like, we can see what 3D animation is capable of.
Yeah. Or even like peak Pixar stuff like Wall-E.
Yeah, exactly. The best of Pixar, stop motion. You only see like one of those every couple years for obvious reasons.
Mhm.
But it's yeah, I can't think of a film I've ever seen and not thought it. I've always been like, that's great, that looks good. Regardless of my feelings
Yeah.
on the film, it always looks great. Yeah, the film really just. I do appreciate though that the film is like less than 90 minutes. It does kind of know what it is. I think the
Mhm.
film really feels like it's aware it doesn't have that much going, like, to do with, like, it sort of, yeah, it feels like they're aware of like how sort of little plot there is, and they don't. You kind of sit there watching it and you're like, oh, is this. Yeah, you sort of watch and you're like, okay, there's all these things, and they sort of, yeah, all these sorts of things sort of happen, and and so we see there's various moments of the film where they're like going to us, trying, we see sort of various points where they try to escape, and
Mhm.
they but I think, I think the film sort of comes alive a bit more in sort of the action set pieces. I think that
Oh,
works
totally.
much better than the sort of dialogue driven character stuff, because that doesn't
Yeah.
really work for
When it gets
me.
to be pure visually, it works a lot better.
Yeah, unlike something such as like Wallace and Gromit, for example, which I think works a lot better, because yeah,
Mhm.
it has the characters and everything. I think that is an example of stop motion animation, or Nightmare Before Christmas, for example, which is a shorter film. It's far more compelling with its characters and its design
Yeah.
and everything, and it's also a musical, which I don't want to say, wow, is it bias? I like a good musical.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Chicken Run just really, there isn't that much to take from it. It's very much, and there's nothing to read into it either. Like, it's not really
Mhm.
trying to be something more than it is. It's very much just like, oh, chickens, they're trapped, they've got to escape, or they'll be turned into pies. And that's
Yeah.
really all the plot is. There's nothing beyond that
Yeah. I do
to it.
think one thing about the voice acting that I wanted to touch on as well was that I
Yep.
think that the like the voice actors don't match the tone of the script or the tone of the animation.
But yeah, no, to animation, I think the voice acting, yeah, just either get voice actors, just get actors either with unique voice, because I don't think Mel Gibson's got a particularly unique voice either. He doesn't have like a
No.
particular, yeah, or just get like get like people who do voice acting for a living, which is a fucking thing I hate about so many modern animated films. They just get famous
Mhm.
actors,
Chris Pratt.
they get celebrities. They get Chris
Yeah.
Pratt, they get Taylor Swift, they get
Yeah.
Rihanna, they get people who aren't even actors. Like, Taylor Swift is not an actor, or you
Yeah.
get actors who can't do any, like Chris Pratt is just Chris Pratt. He can't do
Mhm.
any other voice. And I feel like that's how I felt with Mel Gibson in the film. It's like he's just
Mhm.
Mel Gibson. He's not
Yeah.
doing anything else. And it's like,
Yeah.
and I think, sorry, you
I
go.
refuse to believe. There you go. I refuse to believe that any parent like cares that a celebrity they recognize in a kids movie. Like I don't think
Exactly.
any parent was. is going to be
Yeah.
like, I would take my kid to this, but Mel Gibson's not in it, so I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah,
Like,
unless they're
they're
like
going to take their kid to see
really,
it anyway.
yeah, unless they are very anti-Semitic and they're like, oh, I want to support Mel Gibson because he
Sure.
got cancelled or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
And Mel
it's
Gibson's not in the new one, right?
yeah, he's been replaced by Zachary Levi, which is also
Oh,
arguably problematic. Yeah, they recast like every character. Like we'll go through this at the end, but like every
sure.
character, it's a completely brand new cast.
It's
Yeah,
so
I
weird.
think yeah, it's weird. It's weird
I mean,
that
Mel Gibson,
like
I understand.
Mel Gibson, I completely get that. Like, oh, do we really want this guy who said some
Yeah.
real bad things? I mean, I know, like, we know he got Oscar nominated for Hacksaw
Yeah.
Ridge,
He had a
but
fake
like,
comeback.
still, yeah, exactly. We don't want to. Yeah, not sure about that one. Yeah, it's just weird that like because he's not British, and I kind of thought like, oh, you'd
Mhm.
cast like a British actor to play this part because
Yeah,
it's a
like a
British
Wallace.
film. Because all the other characters are voiced by like British voice actors, so it's like
Yeah.
all actors. It's like so why not? Why not at least get Mel Gibson to do a British accent? Because that would be interesting. If listening to Mel
Yeah.
Gibson try and do a British accent, because it's like you know what, that could be entertaining watching
Yeah,
it
it fits the
because I feel
tone
like he
more.
doesn't have much range as an actor. He just sort of and I don't know. I mean, this was just before Shrek, so this was before because Shrek, had a lot of like famous celebrities voicing characters. Eddie
Mhm.
Murphy, Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz,
Yeah.
you had all that. But like that's a film that uses them exceptionally well.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Eddie Murphy is BAFTA nominated for Shrek. Like
Yeah.
which is so weird.
Deserve.
I mean, he's great in it. He's probably the best bit of the film, but it's so
Yeah.
weird to think that a vocal performance would be nominated for a BAFTA. I just the humor to me, it wasn't like I could see. I was like, as I mentioned, I could see like, okay, this is where a joke is meant to be, but it was never like,
Mhm.
ha. I was never. I was. It was almost roll. I was rolling my eyes. I'm like, oh fuck hell, like
Yeah.
that's just such a poor attempt of humor. Like as I mentioned, I don't want to be in a pie. I don't like gravy, which for some
Mhm.
people find hilarious for some reason, and I genuinely don't understand why. It's like, is it just
I don't
because
find
she's speaking in a northern accent, and that's why it's funny? She's
maybe.
saying something a bit. I don't
I
know.
definitely
It's
wasn't.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
wasn't cringing at any of the humor, but I also wasn't like laughing out loud. I just found it consistently kind of like cute. But yeah, I remember. I don't know. I'm curious as if like because when this came out, it was kind of before. I mean, stop motion had been around, but it wasn't in this kind of blockbuster DreamWorks style. I wonder if it was a thing where it was kind of a new thing, the same way Shrek was. Like Shrek's a meme now, but in 2001, that kind of humor and
Mm,
that humor and that kind of like adult look at like an animated film was like such a groundbreaking. The same way like Deadpool was quote unquote groundbreaking in terms of being a superhero movie with like swearing and stuff, and now it's just obnoxious and cringe. But like it's interesting just seeing how these things are different when they come out. So I wonder if Chicken Run was a thing where it was like innovative at the time, which sounds stupid now because it's such a bland movie kind of. But
because I rewatched Shrek not recently, but like a couple
mhm.
years ago, and I was rewatching it with the context of all the memes and everything like it. And I was watching it, I'm
Yeah,
like, no, this is like a legitimately great film. Like beyond the
yeah,
memes and everything, this is a legitimately great film. And I think, yeah, I don't know because again, this was Aardman's first foray into feature films.
hmm
They never done this before, so it very much is like so and you never with that sort of idea in mind. Again, I don't know, but it's
hmm
because stop motion, wasn't really as big. Stop motion had been done. Night Before Christmas,
yeah,
James and the Giant Peach. It had been done, but
sure,
it's not. But it seemed like it was far more for short films, like the Wallace
hmm
and Gromit shorts and everything like that. It never seemed like it went beyond that. It was always like it's for a short film format purely just because of the time it takes to
yeah.
make this. But Yeah,
And
I
even
mean, I
Nightmare was
don't.
kind of like more of an artsy. Like this is
Yeah.
very much like a more for children, more like more broadly appealing. And I want like
Mm.
seeing it getting a Globe nomination, seeing how much money it made relative to the genre. I wonder if it was kind of a, I don't know, like a spur of the moment sort of hit that nowadays is like just seems not as innovative as it might have back then. Because like when you see stuff from like Leica or like Wes Anderson's animation or like Pinocchio, like, there's so many more, or again more adult, but Anomalisa. There's so much more innovative and interesting stop motion that's been released since. Like this just kind of feels very low tier stop motion in hindsight.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've kind of said my piece on the film. I don't hate it, but
Yeah.
it's just such an I don't know if I don't I feel like mediocre is a bit generous. It's just like it is a film that
Hmm.
like exists. Like it's a film that I've seen, I've ticked it off, but I have no desire to go back and watch it again just because it has nothing for me really. Even and,
Yeah.
I'm not and I'm someone who like and I think the problem really is that I can love the animation in a film, but the script has to be good. Like I was talking
Hmm.
to some people recently about the new Spider-Verse, which I've got many problems with. And I look, it's an incredible looking film. I
Hmm.
cannot deny that. But the script faults it like the script has too many faults for me to like truly love it. And like one of the people I was talking
Yeah.
to was like, it can have the plot of like a Paw Patrol movie and it's still an 8 out of 10 because of the animation. And I think that's a bit superficial because I'm like
Yeah.
that's one element. The animation is like one element of the film. It's a
Yeah.
big part, but it is one element, and I would argue the script is the most important part of any film, arguably. And I
Sure.
think if the script doesn't work for me, then it doesn't matter how great the film looks, how well it's shot, or anything like that.
Hmm.
It's going to be. I'm not gonna love it because if
Yeah.
like the script has to work before
Yeah.
anything else really works.
Yeah. And it applies to live action too. Like Gravity is a beautiful
For me,
film,
people
like
aren't
visually.
good enough for me. I don't care about anything that happens. I'm like, oh, it's a bit dark. They're gonna get turned into pies, and I like that. But it never really feels like it expands upon that idea. It never
Hmm.
feels like it almost feels like there's a lot of opportunity for great stuff in it, and the
Hmm.
film never goes beyond the like basic
Yeah.
elements of that, which is a problem. Like you you know. And I feel like like the Shaun the Sheep movie, for example, it's a really great film, but that's an example I feel like of that film going too far in the other direction. It's trying to do too much with its film.
Hmm.
I feel like and I think Curse of the Were Rabbit is a perfect like the midpoint. Like it's got
Yeah.
everything. It's perfect. Film is like goes as far as it can without like stretching film.
Yeah.
Like Chicken
No,
Run is on
that's
one
probably
end,
their
Shaun the
peak.
Sheep is on the other end, and then you've got Curse of the Were Rabbit in the middle, which really
Hmm.
just is the perfect blend of the two. Arguably, it goes exactly as far as it can with its concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chicken Run, it's fine. I give it a 5 out of 10.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I'd probably give it like around a 6 or a 6 or maybe a 7 if I'm feeling really generous. I think I had it as an 8 beforehand, like when I watched it a couple years ago. But I
Mm,
definitely feel like I may have just been kind of too generous towards the like quality of the animation, just kind of the overall like charm of it.
yeah.
Because yeah, watching it this time, I was much more annoyed by the simplicity of the story, which
Hmm.
I wouldn't mind if it wasn't so heavy on like the story and caring about the characters, because I really just didn't. And
Yeah.
yeah, the animation was amazing, and some of the humor was keeping me along and entertained. But that's kind of about the best I can give it. I do think it feels like a just a worse Fantastic Mr. Fox. Like even the whole like escaping the humans, and I think George Clooney's voice is so much better for animation than Mel Gibson's is.
I need to
Um,
rewatch that actually because I haven't seen it
yeah, I
in
rewatched it earlier this
like
year. It's just amazing.
yeah. Just quickly before we touch on the sequel. Yeah, simplicity is never a thing that bothers me necessarily. It's just like how you execute that simplicity that matters. And if the film, I'm fine with films being simple. I mean, I like Marvel movies, for fuck's sake. You know, I'm fine with simplistic stories. Yeah, and we're tying this into the release of Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget, which is premiered. People have seen it. It premiered at the BFI London Film Festival. I also feel it's got 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a bit lower. It's a much lower score. And it says so. The sort of consensus, the website's Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget offers more of the easy laughs and eye-catching animation that fans of the original enjoyed, although there's a general feeling of diminishing returns. See, that doesn't sound like I'm gonna love this film that much then, because
that's not as
find it
promising.
particularly funny. Like the animation,
So it's just a worse version.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking at the casters because they recast like every character for some reason. I understand why you'd want to recast Mel Gibson because Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
So you've got Zachary Levi now is Rocky, which is I mean, arguably better, but also arguably worse, maybe depending on who you ask. Yeah, Bella Ramsey from The Last of Us is in it.
Oh, interesting.
Ramesh Ranganathan, who's a British comedian I'm a big fan of. Got David Bradley. Imelda Staunton, who was in the first film, is coming back. The only one. Nick Mohammed, Peter Serafinowicz, like it's lots of actors that I'm familiar with and do like generally, but I don't know why they recast them because it feels like I don't know why I don't see a need to. Yeah, okay. I wonder
maybe just like a COVID thing.
Yeah, possibly. Actually, I want to see when they started making this. So the sequel was reported in 2018. The film eventually officially began pre-production 2019. Okay, well that definitely did not help. So Mel Gibson was not asked to return. Again, makes a ton of sense that they didn't want to ask him back. In July 2020, Julia Swala, I don't know how to pronounce the name, revealed Aardman's intention to recast her role, saying her voice now sounded too old. The decision was met with widespread criticism, with some finding the decision ageist. Which is...
pretty much is.
It kind of is. I don't think it would have mattered. Honestly, I don't see the problem. I honestly think, like, that's a weird reason to recast a role, because it's like, who cares? It's been... I feel like we can have a little bit of time pass. And principal photography began in early 2021. That is a weird reason to recast someone, honestly. I feel like that's such a I feel like that would be such a non-issue.
But I think people will be more happy that, like, oh, they got the whole cast back together than, like, wow, they all sound old because they're 20 years later. Like, obviously, they're going to sound a bit older.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to... That's so weird. That's such a weird reason to recast.
Yeah, like, they sounded older in the new Incredibles. The Incredibles 2, they sound older, but, like, it's you don't want them to recast the characters.
But
it is, but I'm glad they didn't recast anybody.
No, except for they had to recast the kid because he'd grown up. Let's see. I'm also doing some reading. This is an interview from the director saying why Gibson is not returning. It was a fabulous choice for Rocky. When he was the Playboy Rooster, he was a movie star, and Rocky was a movie star. It was perfect. But now Rocky's more vulnerable. He's a first-time father. It's more Ginger's movie, so his role is different. I'd argue Ginger's more of the protagonist in the first film, anyway. To be honest, I think. He's he's like the one who got the character arc, but I feel like we focus more on her character. I also feel like they definitely were like, okay, we can't have him back anyway because of the whole anti-Semitism thing.
Among others.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that's they're like, that's an excuse, but and I'm just looking at this director, what else he's made. So he directed Flushed Away, The Tale of Despereaux, and Paranorman. are his sort of previous directorial credits. I've only seen
Promising.
Paranorman of that list, and I don't mind it. It's like perfectly serviceable. It's a great looking movie, but
Yeah,
as a
it's kind of similar to Chicken Run.
yeah, but as a piece of writing, it's a film that like the animation is yeah, it's it's a again it's another example of like a beautifully animated film with such a mediocre with like such a mediocre script. I was like, oh, why did
Yeah,
you spend your time on this when it's not that worth it? But
yeah,
yeah, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget comes out incredibly soon. Like, I mean, we're recording this
yeah. Next
about
week, right?
a week and a half before it's meant to come out. 15th, I
hmm
think.
Yeah, that's where it is for
And
me.
yeah, I'm gonna. I mean, I'll watch it. It's on the
hmm
list. I'll check it out. And yeah, but I mean, I just want to see the new Wallace and Gromit film that they're making
Yeah,
because
yeah. Is
they've
that
had
going to be
it.
their last movie?
Um, Well, yeah. So the thing is, they I don't know for you listening, you may or may not have heard. Aardman apparently is running out of clay, and they only have enough to finish the new Wallace and Gromit film. But they, from what I read, they were able to find a new source from
Oh, okay.
a different company because the company they got clay from like a shutdown or whatever, so they had to get new
Yeah.
clay. So Aardman is not done. They will still keep making
Okay.
films. They just
That's great.
have a new place they're getting clay from, but they've got enough currently to finish the new Wallace and Gromit.
Okay.
And I
Awesome.
think they've already got another film announced anyway, so like they're not. But yeah,
They're
I
not done.
was yeah. I initially read that I'm like, oh, is Aardman like as a company like they don't have clay? It's like what can
Yeah,
they
that's
do?
all they
They don't
got.
have. But you know, and Aardman, like a lot of people really like Aardman, like
hmm
as a studio. And I mean, I think they're good, but yeah, I'm not blown away. But honestly, I'd probably say no. I do like the Shaun the Sheep movie, and I do like Curse of the Were Rabbit, but it's not like
Yeah,
the
I love the
best.
Wallace and Gromit short.
Yeah, but I think that's pretty much it. Unless there's anything you wanted
hmm
to say before I wrap this up.
No, nothing personally, but thank you for having me. It was great to talk about such a great movie.
Yep, and you're welcome back if you ever want to come on and do another episode in the future, if you
Yeah.
so choose. So thank you all for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, go back, listen to last week's episode that I did, looking at the favorite and Yorgos Lanthimos' other films. Some good bits in there, some good bits that I had to edit out, unfortunately, because they were in no way related. But yeah, go listen to those. Next episode gonna be the Christmas special. I'm gonna be doing covering a Christmas film, and then after that, it's the first half of the review of the year. So I'm really looking forward to finally recording that, and you can hear thoughts about some of the new releases that I was tying episodes into in that episode. So I hope you've all enjoyed listening to this one. Yeah, check out all the other episodes. There's lots, so there's got to be something for everyone. And yeah, thank you so very much for listening, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.